Hello, students. You are most welcome to a new session on the poem Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. I hope that you might have gone through this poem earlier and you might have noticed the beauty of the poem too. So, John Keats is just a searcher of beauty in his poem, which he thinks is impossible to find. You know, he is going to search what is the most beautiful thing in our life, but he returns depressed. Here, this poem, Ode to a Nightingale, is also about the search of beauty that he tries to find through the song of a nightingale. It is so beautiful that it charms on our heart very deeply. But when nightingale flies away, the charm is gone. So the poet is actually in a mess. Whether the beauty that he realized through the song of nightingale is real or a visionary one, or through this remarkable conclusion, he tries to reach the point whether the whole world is a real or a visionary one. So he is living the poem with the Vedic question of Indian philosophy, where there has been a great discussion as to the nature of this world, whether we should take it as a real existence or an imaginary one. Now, we have just to talk about the poem, which is a longing for purity and beauty. We know that Ode to a Nightingale had been written by John Keats in the spring of 1819, and we can say it is an ode, but it is the longest ode ever written. Now he has written some other odes too, like Ode on Aggression and Ode on Melancholy. In all the poems, you find that he has been pursuing beauty and purity in life, but he is left with sadness, he is left with melancholy, or this is the melancholic stage of life, which is the real search of his poem. You may be temporarily happy. The happiness that is all due to the song of Nightingale is temporarily received, because this is a fleeting time which never stays at a point where we are enjoying beauty and purity. It is changing fast, and this is the reason that the beauty and purity you have realized too do not stay permanently. So, the pleasure, the beauty that we want to receive in our life is short lived. And because they are short lived, uh, the poet remains unhappy. He wants to relieve himself from the pain of this world but actually it is temporarily done. So, speakers view listening to beautiful song of the nightingale in dark forest, and here he wants to stay because it is the most beautiful reality that he seems to have achieved. But the reality is that it is not living long. And this is what the question is. And he tries to meditate on time, death, beauty, nature, and human suffering. You may say that this life itself is full with lots of suffering. And so we always remain painful and we are in pain, all because of the nature of life. Life itself is full with pains. We simply cannot avoid them. We think that it is the bed of rose and we are born here to enjoy it. But it is misconceived idea. When you come into the playground of life, you find that it is full with suffering, full with troubles and pains. And we can live the life only when going through the pains and sufferings. We try to escape this world, to search for the place full with beauty forever. But it is not found in any corner of this world and in any thing that looks to be the beautiful one. The poet tries to say that we can find beauty only for the time being. Then everything is over, everything is gone. And death is the final reality. But we do not try to accept it. Hence the problem. So, there is a metaphorical closeness between the poet and the comfort that he finds through Nightingale's song. Poetry brings him metaphorically closer to the nightingale. You know, just he wants to sing, he wants to be just like nightingale singing melodious songs. But ultimately, you find that this is not possible. And we cannot say that we can live always in happiness and happiness. So, even for the time being, the poet tries to come near to the nightingale where he can stay, where he can just live with the beauty of the song, with the charm of the song for some time. So, here we find that he is just trying to listen to the beautiful song of Nightingale, but he is left an isolated figure by the end because that nightingale flies away. So the source of beauty does not remain forever. The source of beauty lives for the short time, and so beauty also stays for the short time. The song of Nightingale was staying for the short time, but the poet wishes to have it forever, that he can relieve himself from the suffering in this world. But it is against our expectation, and Nightingale flies away. So he is not sure of whether the whole experience has been a vision or a waking dream. It is no better than a dream where we spend whole life in search of beauty. You know, it is just a kind of our wish, but that is not to be realized. So it is whole life is a dream, and it is just a waking dream only because of the fact we are waking, and in that stage we have the dreams, we have the wishes, just not to be realized ever. So, this is what the finding is of John Keats' poem. And we find that he is just trying to escape from the pressure and suffering of human life. We know that human life is made of lots of pressure and lot of sufferings. And naturally, it is our wish to escape from this pressure. We want to get beauty, we want to get something which can console us. But we find that it is just the life which never permits us to be into the realm of beauty forever. Rather, it permits us to live through the suffering. And here, the person who is able to find beauty in suffering can only survive. But the poet has not tried to find beauty in suffering. Rather, he tried to find beauty just avoiding suffering. Or it is just to avoid suffering, he tried to find beauty and pleasure. But that is an impossibility. Hence, he always remains in torment or psychological pain. But it is the way by which we can make life just run. That here we have to stay, which is full with troubles and pressures, and we want to find peace against these pressures and troubles, and it is why we want to wander here and there, and we do not find any place. So our basic literature says that it is within that suffering we can find pleasure. If you try to combat with suffering, we find that we start realizing our pleasure. Now, the poet is of the view that our consciousness itself is a burden. It is burden because the more you know, the more we are troubled. So, thinking itself is full of lots of sorrow. The man who is dull, the man who is not thoughtful, the man who is not conscious, is just more pleasant, is happier. But here, because we are full with consciousness, because we are thoughtful, so we create lots of sorrow and sufferings for us. So merely to think is to be full of sorrow. And here the poet thinks that there should be a kind of intoxication that can dull our sense. We do not want to get our sense sharper. So a dull one is happier than a conscious one, a thoughtful one. So dullness is just going to help us avoid our sorrow. So we find when just we are taking life very thoughtfully, very consciously, we are always surrounded by sorrows and problems. But most often you find that people are not so conscious, not so thoughtful, and so they do not have much more troubles as well. We can say the speaker is not envious of happiness, of the nightingale. Nightingale is happily singing, and just it is his awareness to enjoy the beauty of its song, that he wants to make himself free from limiting, isolating confines of the anxious human mind. We are living in the confines of our mind, and we are living in isolations, and this is from where we need a kind of freedom. We need a kind of just freedom to go beyond that, where we can enjoy the life. So it is just a search for purity and beauty, that is the very much purpose. But the speaker, the poet, wants drowsiness because he wants to avoid exhausting consciousness, and it is dreary numbness due to a speaker's drunkenness. That is the only solution for his just just his being less conscious. Intoxication is of great help in this regard, that it makes our sense dull, it makes our thought process slow, it makes our consciousness low. So the speaker compares it to a kind of sinking in the river Lethe, which is a Greek mythological river that causes forgetfulness those who drink its water. Now, we find that psychologically there is a mechanism of forgetfulness in our personality, and it is a kind of safety valve for us, that we forget our suffering, our tension. Had we been gathering all our suffering and tension, we had been in deep troubles, and it would have been very much difficult for us to live with all living memories. So it is just the way that God has gifted us this kind of psychological mechanism to forget. And here there is just a Greek mythological river, and when we drink water from it, it causes forgetfulness in us. Or we can take some another kind of intoxicating thing that can make our sense dull and dull. So, in a way, we can say that the poet seems to be talking about the point that people prefer to take intoxicating things to avoid consciousness, to avoid a burning thought, to avoid the very much vicinity with the realistic life, which is another name of suffering and suffering. So let us be easy to tackle the life. We should not be very much serious to tackle the situation. And we can say we should avoid lots of our tensions. And we can not avoid when we are thoughtful. We can avoid only when we are in drunkenness, or we try to forget all these kind of things. So this is the way that we should spend our life, that the poet is also preferring to be into the drunkenness, where he can stop thinking, or he can forget very easily whatever is torturing is stored in his brain. Okay, so we have a lust, we have a longing for purity and beauty, and it is why he is making himself focus on the Nightingale's beautiful song. So this is definitely a soother, which is just going to make our tension and problem lessen, but it does not remain with us forever. It is no doubt the beautiful song heard by the poet, but he is just unsatisfied. He is not completely drunken of the beauty of the song, because the nightingale flies away. So it is a kind of personal awareness that the poem is about, speakers or poets' personal awareness, and it is the effect of beauty of nightingale's singing that we can realize. But a speaker's experience is filtered through his own personal experience and perception, that it is not giving us a permanent solution. that beauty does not remain. It is the momentary existence. And it is why just he is not sure whether it was real or imaginary. And so a speaker thinks, and so he is going into the same stage of drunkenness from where he has started the poem. He thinks that he should just go back to the same realm of drunkenness. Coming to the end, he was just thinking out of his perception, own perception, that it is better to live into the drunkenness because we find that whatever beautiful thing he has fought in terms of Nightingale's song is just fleeting away. So speakers think that poetry and the imagination will solve the problem of consciousness. And most often you find that we take resort to different kind of artistic expression to give vent to our suppressed feeling. That may be a kind of search for beauty, and it may live and stay with us. And here we can say that either we can talk of intoxication or death. Rather, intoxication is just a temporary process of forgetfulness. Or we can say the permanent process of forgetfulness of all the trouble is death. So he is preferring death to face the reality. So death is an alternative to intoxication. This would end the speaker's suffering. Yes, it is the complete just escape from the suffering that you are facing. And we can say that the poet is just unable to perceive the beauty of the Nightingale's song because that source of beauty is flying away. It is not living with the poet. So it is just the perception which makes us realize the beauty of the song, or we can say it is just our consciousness that can make us translate that experience into poetry. So we should say that that experience of beauty should be translated into art. That is what the finding is here of this poem. And the poem is just not going to make us ready to face the reality. And so it may be criticized for that reason, that we should not simply be sorry for the thing that we have lost, the very much source of beauty and happiness. So we should always try to live with different challenges of life, or we should try to search the source of beauty as well. Thank you.